If someone asked you right now to describe yourself in social situations, what word would come to mind? For a lot of people watching this, that word might be awkward. And if that's the word that you use, I want to spend the next 10 minutes questioning whether that's actually true, or whether it's a story that you've been telling yourself for so long that you've stopped examining it. Hi, I'm Greg, and on this channel we work on the one thing that changes every conversation you'll ever have. Not just what you say, but how present you are when you say it. So one of the most common reasons that people will give for feeling awkward is that they feel other people are watching them or judging them. This can be especially difficult if you've had a history of bullying or exclusion or criticism from others, whether they were schoolmates or colleagues, supposed friends, or even family members, and especially if this happened at an age when you were still forming your sense of who you are in the world. Now, I don't want to downplay in any way any of the trauma or hurt that can come from having gone through all of that at some point. But it is worth remembering that all of that was happening in a specific context, in a specific relationship. It is not representative of how most people will see you or think about you. One of the most common beliefs that people who think of themselves as awkward hold is that they are broken or damaged, or that they have missed out on how to behave in normal social situations. Well, you might have heard about something called the spotlight effect. So research consistently shows that we massively overestimate the amount of attention that other people are paying to us. In general, the primary reason that those people are not paying attention to us is they're too focused on themselves. This is the mind's way of keeping us hyper aware of ourselves, thinking that our behavior and choices sit in others' minds far longer than they actually do, causing us to overanalyze our own behavior and creating this feedback loop that just builds self-consciousness. The obvious implications of this is that we shouldn't worry so much about what other people are thinking or that they're judging our efforts and words. But this can be easier said than done, right? Sometimes we need to give ourselves a little conscious reminder to let go of this when we catch ourselves doing it. Have you ever wondered, what is the difference between someone who's genuinely awkward and someone who feels awkward but comes across as endearing or interesting? What are they doing differently? Well, I would argue that the person who comes across as genuinely awkward is usually focused on themselves. And the one who feels awkward but comes across as endearing is usually focused on the other person. And it's merely their lack of communication technique or confidence that the other person sees, both of which can be learned. The difference is where their attention is, and this actually makes all the difference in the world. Now, in fact, I actually know a few people who clearly consider themselves confident, but because they're more focused on themselves rather than others, interestingly enough, they usually come across as awkward. Now that distinction is worth sitting with for a moment because it changes everything about how you approach this feeling of awkwardness. Right? It's not about eliminating the feeling, it's about where your attention goes when the feeling arrives. Consider the difference between saying, I am enthusiastic, and I sometimes feel enthusiastic when I'm about to do something I enjoy. The first one would be a statement about your identity and almost certainly inaccurate. Right? Even the most excitable people are not enthusiastic all the time. Dogs are, though. That's what it would look like to be truly enthusiastic all of the time. In the same way, think about the difference between saying, I am awkward and I sometimes feel awkward in social situations. The first is a claim about your identity, which, as with I am enthusiastic, is just simply not accurate. But saying, I sometimes feel awkward in certain social situations is perfectly reasonable and much more likely to be true. The difference between the two is critical though, because the first one is a statement about your identity and one that you can't really change, but it could almost certainly be proved to be wrong. The second statement confirms that all it is a state of mind, and states of mind can be changed. We do so naturally all the time. It really is worth reminding yourself of this because accepting the difference is the first step to actually being able to change that state. Sometimes a simple distraction can be enough to help you go out of that state. I remember once when I was teaching drama, a student was really struggling to remember her lines in a scene that I was working on with her. And she was clearly embarrassed about this, and I was pretty sure that she knew her lines, but that she was just struggling with self-consciousness more than anything else. I asked her to carry a wooden chair with her in her scene, which reflected the weight on her character's shoulders as well in the scene. The chair wasn't heavy, but just heavy enough that carrying it for a minute or two would actually make her quite uncomfortable. So sure enough, within a few minutes she delivered a performance of that scene while carrying that chair that had everyone in the room riveted. All she needed to do was take her mind off herself, and in so doing, any feelings of awkwardness just weren't given the room to develop. I can only hope that she remembered the lesson she learned about herself that day, seriously. Now, I'm not going to pretend that a few quick and simple actions like the one I've just described are just going to cure you of feeling awkward, especially if you've struggled with it for many years. But I do want to share a couple of concrete techniques that genuinely do help in managing this feeling. I'm not promising that they will eliminate the feeling altogether, but they will help to stop the feeling escalating into the behavior, even unconsciously, that leads to that external awkwardness that you're trying to avoid. Think of these as tools rather than a cure. I'll describe them from the most to the least immediate effect. Now, the first is the most basic action and something that you can actually do anywhere and at any time. You can call this grounding. So it's a simple technique used to force your mind back to the present. It can help to calm your racing mind and reduce tension and bring your mind back to the moment. So it's simply this. Just place your feet firmly on the ground. Okay? Keep both feet flat on the floor. Feel them there. And notice the weight of your body pressing down. Notice the texture and the pressure of your body on the floor. And breathe in and out slowly to the count of 5 to 8 for an inhalation and 5 to 8 for an exhalation. Do this a few times and you'll find that it's much easier to be focused on the present rather than have those thoughts in your mind going around about what others might think. You can do this just before you go into a social situation, on a bathroom break, anywhere. A variation of this is the following. You can keep a small object in your pocket, such as a smooth stone or a distinctive coin, and then feel it between your fingers, not in front of you while it's in your pocket. Might look a little bit strange otherwise. And just rub it, feel the temperature and the texture, and it can be a very brief, calming distraction to take your mind back to the present moment. If you've ever seen the movie Inception, you can even think of this like Leonardo DiCaprio's little spinning top that he keeps on himself at all times, just to bring himself back to reality and remind himself that he isn't dreaming. Okay? It's a way of directing your state of mind. The third technique is very similar to what is practiced in some forms of meditation. So this is to acknowledge the feeling, in this case awkwardness, rather than to fight it. Feel the tension, perhaps even try to notice where it is in your body if you can. And you can say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable at the moment, but this doesn't need to grow. No need to focus on it or think about it at all. Just let it flow past, it'll come and it'll go. By doing so, you contain it, you limit it, you see it for what it is. A temporary state that will come and will pass. It's not your identity. There is a principle, sometimes attributed to Carl Jung, that what you resist persists. This is exactly that principle in motion. Okay, finally, when you really don't know what to say, another simple thing to do is just to ask a question. I've been in this situation many times myself, and the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes and the more your questions improve. Open questions are good, as they allow room for more conversation, and questions take the pressure off you for a moment. Good questions are ones that are easy for the other person to answer with low commitment, such as about the environment or the situation that you're in, or about their interests at a very basic level. It can be helpful to set up with a brief statement first, such as, I went to this great little bookshop yesterday. They had a good selection. Do you enjoy reading? Or, this weather's amazing, isn't it? What do you like to do when the weather's like this? It's very simple questions. On that note of questions, here's what I want you to ask yourself. What does it look like when you genuinely moved through this? Perhaps you're not perfectly confident, but you are genuinely more at ease. What specifically will be different about how you are in those situations? Remember, you're not an awkward person. You're simply someone who sometimes feels awkward in certain situations, and that's something that you can change. If this landed for you, if you recognized yourself in any of it, I want you to know that this is exactly the kind of thing that I work with people on in my coaching sessions. Not just the techniques, but also some of the stories underneath the techniques, because sometimes what sounds like a communication problem is actually a confidence problem. And sometimes what sounds like a confidence problem is actually just a habit of thinking that nobody else has ever helped you to examine. If you're curious about what that might look like for you specifically, I'll leave a link below. And if you want something practical to take with in your next social situation while you work on this, there's also a free cheat sheet that gives you exactly what to say in 7 different situations. Networking, first dates, job interviews, those moments when social anxiety kicks in and you don't really know what to say. It gives you something to start with, at least when your mind goes blank. It's free, it's phone friendly, and the link is in the description below. If you found this useful, subscribing means that you'll see the next one, and there is a lot more where this came from. So I'll see you there. Bye for now.